The turkey wasn't the only thing that got burned at Thanksgiving dinner that year. I had been waiting for this moment for a very long time, almost 18 months, watching everything quietly and carefully, like someone sitting in the back of a classroom and noticing every small detail while pretending not to. My mother-in-law, Evelyn, loved to show off. She wore expensive clothes that always looked new, even when she had already worn them many times. She talked about luxury spa treatments like they were normal weekly things. She bought things that most people only dream about. And every time she did that, my husband Daniel and I were trying our best to save every little bit of money we could, because we believed we were paying back a loan that had been given to us. A loan that, as I would later discover, we never actually received at all. I married Daniel 5 years ago. It was not long after his father, Robert, passed away. Robert had been a very steady and responsible man. He was the kind of person who kept everything calm in the family. Most importantly, he was the only person who could stop Evelyn when she wanted to spend too much money or make big selfish demands. He balanced everything out in that house. But when he died, everything changed. It was like a strong wall had broken, and Evelyn was suddenly free to do whatever she wanted. She started acting like money was something endless, like it could never run out. She began spending more and more, and nobody was there to stop her or question her. After Robert's death, there was a life insurance payout. It was a large amount of money, around $300,000. Daniel was the person in charge of it. He was always careful and responsible with money, just like his father. He did not like to waste anything. Because of that, I trusted him completely when it came to financial matters. We worked together as a team. I handled most of our daily budgeting because Daniel sometimes forgot small things like bills or due dates, but he always agreed with me and trusted my decisions. So everything in our life felt stable, at least on the outside. Then one strange thing happened that changed everything slowly. One day, Daniel told me that we had to start paying back a loan. It was $50,000. He said it came from his father's life insurance money. I remember that moment very clearly because I stopped what I was doing and looked at him, completely confused. I asked him what loan he was talking about. I told him very clearly that we had never taken any loan like that. But Daniel said his mother had told him about it. He said she showed him records and proof that we had borrowed the money for house repairs and that we had agreed to pay it back slowly with interest. I remember feeling very strange inside, like something did not fit. We had never borrowed money. We had been saving carefully for house repairs for a long time, putting aside small amounts every month. I knew every single detail of our money because I was the one managing it. I told Daniel again very carefully that I was sure we never took any loan. But Daniel trusted his mother. He said she had shown him documents, and because he was already stressed with work and life, he believed her. Evelyn always had a way of making things sound true, even when they were not. She was good at twisting stories so that she looked right and others looked wrong. At that moment, I should have pushed harder. I should have demanded to see those papers right away. But I didn't because I didn't want to create problems in the family, and I also saw that Daniel was already stressed and tired. So instead of fighting immediately, I decided to quietly check everything myself. I began to watch, read, and investigate in secret. It took many weeks. I went through small clues and bits of information, slowly building a picture of what had really happened. What I found shocked me deeply. Evelyn had access to Daniel's bank account. It was something she had kept from when he was younger, and nobody had thought to remove her access. That was the key mistake. She had used that access to move money from the life insurance funds into her own account. Then she had made it look like the money was a loan given to us. The documents she showed Daniel were real bank transfers, but they were not going to us. They were going to her. She had disguised everything carefully so that it looked honest on paper, but it was actually not honest at all. Once I understood this, I needed strong proof. I did not want just suspicions. I wanted something clear that Daniel could not ignore. So I kept watching quietly. I documented everything I could. I saw Evelyn buying a brand new car. I saw her going on a luxury cruise where she posted pictures of fancy food and beautiful ocean views. I saw her take a trip to Las Vegas where she gambled and stayed in expensive hotels. All of this happened at the same time that Daniel and I were carefully paying back money we believed we owed. We were cutting back on small things, saving on groceries, and saying no to simple joys, thinking we had to be responsible. Meanwhile, she was living a completely different life using that same money. Then came Thanksgiving dinner, the moment I had been waiting for and dreading at the same time. We sat at her big dining table. Everything looked expensive and perfect. She had new plates, shiny silverware, and a carefully decorated table. She smiled proudly as she served the turkey. She talked about family traditions and how things should always stay authentic. I could feel that her words were also small insults toward me, because I had once offered to bring a simple cornbread stuffing recipe from my grandmother, and she had rejected it, saying it was not proper enough. Everything she did always had a hidden message behind it. Daniel's sister Hannah was also there with her family. She looked uncomfortable, like she always did in that house. She was kind and gentle, but she had never been her mother's favorite. She had chosen a simple life and became a teacher, which Evelyn never respected. Hannah gave me a small look that showed she understood something was wrong, even if she didn't know all the details. Then Daniel spoke, and everything changed in one moment. He asked me if I had set up the loan payments to his mother, because she said the payments were late. The room became very quiet immediately. It felt like even the air stopped moving. I slowly put down my glass and looked at him. I said carefully that we needed to talk about that, because we had never received any loan at all. I said it clearly, so there could be no confusion. Evelyn reacted immediately. She laughed loudly, but it sounded forced and nervous. She said I was mistaken. She said she had helped us, and that there were records to prove it. But I stayed calm. I told her that yes, there were records, but those records showed money going into her account, not ours. That changed everything in the room. Daniel looked between us, confused and shocked, like he was trying to understand two completely different stories at the same time. Evelyn tried to regain control. She said I was trying to cause trouble. She said I misunderstood everything. But I was ready. I opened my bag and took out a folder. Inside were bank statements, screenshots, and records I had collected over many weeks. I placed them on the table slowly. I told everyone that these were the real records. I said I had proof showing exactly where the money went. I also showed social media posts where Evelyn was showing off her trips and shopping sprees, all dated right after the money disappeared. Daniel's face changed as he looked through the papers. He became very still. Hannah leaned forward and started reading too. The truth was becoming harder to deny with every page. Then I showed even more proof on my phone. I showed images from Evelyn's trips to Las Vegas, including her celebrating at casinos and shopping for expensive bags. I showed dates that matched the exact time we were struggling financially and making payments we did not need to make. Daniel's voice broke when he realized something else important. He remembered that during one of those times, we had said no to a school trip for our niece Sophie because we could not afford it. Sophie had been very excited about it and had been preparing for months. Hearing that made everything feel even more unfair and painful. Hannah finally spoke strongly, saying that her daughter had worked hard and cried when she missed the trip. Evelyn tried to defend herself by saying it was not important, but no one agreed with her anymore. The room felt heavy with truth. Evelyn then tried to justify herself, saying she deserved the money because she had suffered after Robert's death. But Daniel finally spoke up and said that everyone had lost Robert, not just her. He said she was the only one who used that pain as an excuse to steal. I then brought out one final document. It was the hardest one to find, but the most important. It showed that Evelyn had taken out a second mortgage on her house without telling anyone. Worse, she had forged Robert's signature to do it. The bank had confirmed it during my investigation. When Daniel and Hannah heard this, they were completely shocked and silent. Evelyn's face changed again. The confidence she had at the beginning was gone. She looked scared, trapped, and unable to explain anything anymore. Daniel stared at her, finally understanding that everything he believed about the money was not true. The loan, the payments, the guilt we carried for months, all of it had been built on a lie. At that Thanksgiving table, the truth finally came out fully. It was not just about money anymore. It was about trust, honesty, and how easily someone close to you can hide something for a long time. And as the turkey sat untouched in the middle of the table, the real story of that dinner was not what was being served, but what was finally revealed. Evelyn's hands began to shake so much that her wine glass moved a little on the table. The red drink almost spilled onto the clean white tablecloth she loved so much. The room was quiet for a moment, but it felt very heavy, like something big and sad was happening. "You had no right to look into my life," Evelyn said loudly, trying to sound strong. I looked at her calmly and said, "Actually, we did have the right. You used money that affected all of us. We are the ones who were hurt." Even the bank looked into it and saw a pattern of missing money and strange payments. Daniel looked confused and hurt. "What pattern?" he asked softly, like he didn't want to believe it. I took a breath and showed them the papers again. "There are records here. A second mortgage was taken. Credit cards were opened in your father's name. And now, $50,000 is missing. Everything is written here clearly." At that moment, Evelyn suddenly stood up so fast that her chair fell backward with a loud noise. It shocked everyone in the room. "This is ridiculous," she shouted. "I am your mother, Daniel. Are you really going to believe all of these lies against me?" Hannah, who had been quiet, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but strong. "Lies? Like the lie that my college money disappeared because of bad investments? Mom, was that really you?" Evelyn didn't answer. She just stood there silently. That silence felt like the truth everyone didn't want to hear. Daniel slowly looked down at the papers again. His voice was very tired when he spoke. "How long?" he asked. "How long have you been doing this to us?" Evelyn tried to speak quickly. "I didn't steal it. I was just borrowing it. I was going to return it. I just needed more time. I thought I could fix everything later. Then she added something even worse. She said she needed more trips to gamble in Vegas. That meant she had been using the money for gambling instead of saving it or returning it. I felt very hurt and angry. So you used our money for gambling? I asked. Evelyn pointed at me like she was blaming me. This is your fault. You turned my children against me. If you had stayed quiet, everything would have been fine. But I shook my head slowly. We cannot stay quiet when money is missing and lives are being hurt. You even posted pictures online of your shopping trips while we were struggling to pay our bills. Daniel stood up very slowly. His chair made a scraping sound on the floor. He looked serious and said, I want to see everything. Every paper, every bank record, every lie. And after that, you are going to pay it back. Evelyn's face changed. She looked scared now. I don't have the money, she cried loudly. I already spent it. Hannah crossed her arms and said, Then sell your car. Sell your bags. Sell your jewelry. Anything you have. Evelyn slowly sat back down in her chair. It looked like her whole world was falling apart. The proud and rich life she used to show off was gone in a moment. I'm your mother, she whispered again, but this time her voice was small and weak. But those words didn't have power anymore. Everyone had heard too many lies. After that Thanksgiving day, everything in our family started to change. It was not quick and it was not easy. It felt like a long, painful storm that would not end right away. Evelyn had to sell her expensive car. She also had to sell her designer clothes and jewelry. She thought she would get a lot of money for them, but she didn't. Most of it was already gone in value. Even worse, when we added everything together, we found out the truth was much bigger than we thought. It wasn't just $50,000. It was almost $200,000 taken over many years. Daniel sat at the table one night with papers everywhere. It's worse than we thought, he said quietly. A lot worse. The number felt too big for our minds. It was hard to even understand how someone could take so much from their own family. Then Hannah found something else that hurt her deeply. She went into the attic and found papers about her college fund. She thought the money was gone because of bad market choices, but it wasn't. It had been taken and used for gambling. Hannah sat down on the floor and held the papers. I worked so hard, she said with tears in her eyes. I had 3 jobs just to go to college. And she used my money like it meant nothing. That moment hurt everyone in the family. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust being broken. Evelyn started to change her behavior sometimes. One day she would cry and say she was sorry. Another day she would get angry and say she had problems she couldn't control. She came to our house one morning with makeup running down her face. She said she was going to a gambling counselor and a therapist. She said she had addiction problems because she felt lost after her husband died. Daniel did not feel sympathy at that moment. He opened the door and said quietly, Dad would be ashamed, and then closed it. That was the first time Daniel had ever truly stood up to his mother like that. Even though it hurt him, it showed how serious things had become. The bank also helped us understand everything better. They looked through all the records and found hidden transfers of money we had never seen before. One discovery shocked us the most. Evelyn had even tried to take money from Daniel's retirement account just 2 weeks before everything was exposed. Daniel looked pale when he read it. She would have taken everything, he said quietly, if we didn't stop her in time. At that point, the family had to make hard decisions. Hannah decided she wanted to press charges for what happened to her college fund. She wanted justice. Daniel and I chose something different. We made a legal agreement that Evelyn would have to pay the money back slowly over time instead of going to jail. It was not an easy choice. Nothing about it felt simple. Evelyn also had to work part-time at Hannah's school. Every paycheck she earned would go directly toward paying back the money she stole. Hannah said, It's not enough, but maybe she will finally understand what honest work feels like. Months passed slowly after that. Life did not go back to normal, but it started to settle in a different way. 3 months after Thanksgiving, we had another family dinner. This time it was at our house, but everything felt different. The table was simple. No expensive decorations. No fancy food. Just normal plates and normal food. Even the plates were not matching. They were old plates we had collected over the years. Each one had memories of past dinners, birthdays, and small family moments. Evelyn came to the dinner wearing simple clothes from a regular store. She did not wear expensive brands anymore. Her hair was not perfectly styled like before. It had gray strands showing. She sat quietly at the table. She did not act proud or loud like she used to. During dessert, she spoke softly. I got Sophie's school trip money refunded, she said. Sophie, the child, became very happy and excited when she heard she could go to Paris. That small moment brought a little joy back into the room. It was not forgiveness, but it was a small step forward. After dinner, Evelyn stood at the door before leaving. She looked nervous and sad. "I never thought I would end up like this," she said honestly. "After your father died, I felt empty. Gambling and shopping made me feel like I was in control. But I wasn't." She paused and then said, "I wasn't in control at all." Daniel answered softly, "No, you weren't." Evelyn nodded and thanked us. She said we stopped her before everything got even worse. She said she might have destroyed the whole family if she had continued. Then she left in her old car, not a fancy black car like before. Just a simple used Toyota. Daniel put his arm around me and watched her leave. He asked quietly, "Do you think she really changed?" I said, "We will only know with time. But at least now she knows someone is watching." That night, Daniel and I looked at our wedding photo. In the photo, Evelyn was standing between us like she always tried to be in control. Daniel smiled a little and said, "She always said you were not good enough for this family. But you were the one protecting it all along." I smiled too. "We protect what we love," I said. "Even when it is hard. Even when it hurts." Life was still not perfect. We were still healing. There were still sad feelings and hard memories. But things were becoming more honest. And sometimes, even when trust is broken, families can slowly learn how to rebuild it again.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊँ कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू। मेरी रूह का मका तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा। मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। दर्द का असर।